Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. I'm thrilled today to have Rodrigo Parada, a full-time real estate investor based in Laval. So, hi, Rodrigo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Axel.
All right. We've been put in touch by a common friend of ours, Alexandra, that I already thank. You have a really cool story. And I'm happy that we go into it and just let's cut to the chase. And I'm going to go right into it. Like, what in the world got you to start investing in real estate in the first place?
Okay. So basically what got me into this whole thing is this wonderful book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure nobody's heard about it. So my aunt gave me this book when I was late teens, around there. And I read it. I thought I got it, but turns out that it only started kicking in a few years later when I was in a financial position to actually start buying properties for myself. So along the way, I was fortunate enough to work for another aunt that was a real estate appraiser, and this was close to 10 years ago. And that really exposed, let's say, the money side of real estate and building generational wealth. So I was able to meet this lady investor who was in Terrebonne, and she had a whole row of houses with bachelors in that area. And I looked at it and I'm like, well, this is real life monopoly. Yeah. So if she can do it, so a lot of people can do it, and that's really what triggered. And then along the way, maybe I'd say 5 to 6 years ago, I was fortunate enough to stumble upon this little site called Bigger Pockets. Yeah. And that's when everything started to make sense. I put everything in place and bought my first residential property. Then, let's say pre-COVID, so that was end of 2019, had a house near Métro Montmorency in Laval des Rapides. Yeah. And I started thinking of house hacking, like they talk over there. So basically buying a property, living in it, and having tenants help you with the rent. And we found a triplex near Métro Quartier, which is an area I know, Laval des Rapides also. Mm-hmm. And sold the house, moved into 5.5 from a single house, and that's where I'm at right now.
Nice. There's so many good things in there. And so I just want to backtrack. So you said you worked for your aunt, who's an appraiser. That must have been a real eye opener, as you said, because you get confronted with the numbers and you see what other investors and other people are doing. Like, can you describe that experience a little bit?
Yeah. Well, basically what came out of it is, once you understand how reports are structured, les comparables, the comps, you realize that, there's a certain guideline to follow, but it's also subjective. Mm-hmm. So unless you know the price of materials by heart or the price of a specific item, you're always going to try to average and come up with the best result for the customer or the financial institution or the individual, right? Yeah. So to me, what that helped shaped in my mind was that this is basically a numbers game. At the end of the day, you're going to be able to get the maximum value out of your property if you're able to understand how it's being evaluated. So making sure that you stand out, not necessarily in terms of space, but also what else you can put in your property, so that when somebody comes and they have their own point of view, you're able to quote unquote exploit it and get the maximum value out of it. Mm-hmm. So that was the best experience I got out of it. But also, there's the human aspect, because sometimes reports get challenged and you need to back it up. And now in my position, where I'm now on the other side of the table, it's very useful to be able to challenge those reports and make sure that you get the most bang for your buck on your property.
Yeah, especially when it's used for finance or refinance. You really want to squeeze every drop out of it.
There you go.
Yeah. So you talked about the house hack. And for those who aren't as familiar, like house hack is when you buy a property, you live in one of the units and you rent the other, and essentially the other tenants pay for your rent, and so you kind of live for free. And so that's how you started with the triplex. Like, what happened next?
So basically, it's fairly not complicated, but here's what happened. We bought the property. We had one tenant upstairs and a unit downstairs, and it was sold to us as a triplex. And we were going to live on the ground floor, renovate whenever we could, if we could get an arrangement with our tenant upstairs, and increase the value, and then refi, cash out, and so on and so forth. But the thing that happened is that when we went for our permits at the city, we found out that the unit downstairs was considered illegal by the city planning. But the other department that collects your taxes, well, they've been collecting taxes since 1984, and they're okay with it. So that brought a whole, we opened the can of worm with that, and we're still dealing with it right now. But what I want to come out of this whole situation is that, real estate it's a tough way to make an easy living. And these are just, problems that are bound to happen. You just got to remain focused on your objective and always do the right things. And now that's what we've been doing. So we've gone through the process with the city. We had to excavate, put in a second entrance because it's a shared entrance. All this stuff to be up to code so that we could get our third legal address.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we were able to negotiate with my upstairs tenant so that she could vacate the apartment. And I've been doing renovations in that apartment myself.
Perfect. So you're now still working with this on this project.
Yeah, I'm living in it, working on it, and hopefully we can get it over with soon.
Okay. And then, so what was your next move? What was your next acquisition?
Okay, so after that, I'm actually in a partnership with my two brothers and my dad.
Okay.
So that's who I invest with. So that property that we have in Laval, that's just me and my wife. But for my other group, we've bought a 4-unit apartment in Sainte-Thérèse. That was the first one. And now we've also purchased 2 other apartments, one triplex in Brownsburg-Chatham, which is not far from Lachute.
Yeah.
And we got another triplex that we're currently converting into a quad in Brownsburg, Lachute.
Okay.
So that's what I'm currently working on. And I have a duplex that's under contract. We're just waiting on the paperwork, certificat de localisation, to finalize everything. And that's going to be in Sainte-Rose. So mainly North Shore of Montreal. That's what I'm comfortable with.
So just out of curiosity, how did you end up buying those 2 triplexes in north of Lachute? Like, why that market?
Well, I was doing some research on the MLS. So just looking at, what's available on the market, and basically, as we know right now, and this was close to a little bit more than a year ago, prices were going up and up, and I wanted to get something a bit cheaper than was being offered. I didn't want to go all the way up to Saint-Jérôme. So I started to extend my search, and basically I traded the 15 for the 50 and started going a bit west, started looking for Lachute, and then I found Brownsburg, and I was able to find some good properties at good prices with good rents. So the cash flow is very, very interesting.
You
so
mentioned
that's sorry.
No. Sorry to cut you, but you mentioned something super interesting that I strongly believe in as well, is that everyone keeps going north, like on the 15, Saint-Jérôme, and sometimes a bit more towards the east. But on the west side, there's a lot of opportunities. It's the properties are cheaper. And when you look at Lachute all the way to Wentworth North, and so on, like, obviously the density isn't the same, like it's the woods, but there's still some small towns, and it's lower property prices. And so I think there's big opportunity. And for people looking for chalets, I've often said, like, look in Wentworth, just because it's cheaper.
Yeah, and in the past year, well, with the market that we've been having, we're starting to notice more and more, I won't say big names, but professionals, not people like myself, being small-time investors, putting more money in those areas. So to me, that confirms that my choice has been, I wouldn't say a wise one, but a good one up to this point. And at the end of the day, I'm in a position where, cash flow is still king for me right now.
Yeah.
So it's all about cash flow, and that's what I was able to find over there.
And so on those properties, did they need a lot of renovations?
Well, I'd say for the first one that I got, it was fairly easy. Just we redid the roof. The apartments are still in good standing. So for now, we're just going to wait until we get vacancy so we can go in and renovate what we usually do. So kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, look at the electricity, plumbing, just make sure that we have an asset that can keep on performing for the next, 20 to 50 years, hopefully. And the second one, which is one of the deals that I wanted to share with the audience today, is that one needed more work because we had to do the roofing. We did part of the plumbing, electricity, but also we converted the main floor into two separate apartments.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way actually to, if you have a large enough unit or a small house or something, to create more revenue.
Well, that's it, right? So this all started when I was spending days in that area and trying to book as many visits as I could. And I just walked in, saw this space, saw what the tenant was paying, which was a joke. I think it was paying like $645 per month for a huge 6.5 with a garage and a downstairs room and crazy storage. So that really got me thinking, and I've never done this before, right? You hear about people doing these conversions, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it out. So in my due diligence process, I reached out to the city, got confirmation that the zoning permitted it. And that was basically my go ahead. I went in, and I'm very happy that I did it.
For sure. That's such a good way. And you checked with the city first, and in your due diligence, at least you didn't get a nasty surprise after you closed.
No, that's it. And I'm a firm believer in transparency in everything that I do. So during the process, I did mention to the other party that I was looking into it. They had no clue. So, and a lot of the times people don't want to pronounce themselves on something that they're unsure of it, which is understandable. So I did that part, and the work paid off.
And in the smaller towns like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know exactly what your experience was, but in smaller towns, one, it's much easier to get answers because you don't have to go through all the bureaucratic red tape. And in a lot of cases, they're happy that you do this because you're going to create 2 dwellings instead of 1. And so you actually attract more people. You're offering more possibilities for housing. And that makes it more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Compared to my experiences dealing with, let's say, a bigger suburb area like Laval, my dealings with that city was very easy, quicker replies, and it was a painless, I would say, procedure that I went through them. So that's another advantage of going into those areas and trekking and finding new paths to explore.
Yeah. You mentioned like maybe this was the property that you wanted to look at so we can go a little bit deeper in.
Yeah.
Would it be okay if we kind of dive
Absolutely.
into it? Absolutely. All right. So you mentioned it was a triplex in, what was the name of it? I keep forgetting.
Brownsburg-Chatham, north of Lachute.
Brownsburg-Chatham. And I know where it is too, but okay. So it's a triplex over there. And so first of all, like, how'd you find it?
The MLS.
The good old MLS. You see, and I want to say, like, so many people are like, there's no deals. There's tons of deals, and there's still deals on MLS. And I found one like 2 weeks ago, and it's a gem. I still can't believe that I found it on the MLS. But you just have to be aggressive, and you have to be quick.
Yeah, quick, aggressive, and also what helps is by doing this. I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but if it becomes who you are, being an investor, you end up looking at properties all the time, right? And you're able to run numbers in your head, or at least get a fair assessment on if it's a good deal or not. So that's what I started doing on the MLS. And also, I mean, this is going to sound really simplistic, but if you're looking at a different part of the province, just go by ordre chronologique, but reverse. And then you can see what's been on the market for longer, and then you know that you have an edge, and you can be a bit more aggressive with your offer. And that's what I did. This property was there for a while. It needed work, like I said, so that's probably one of the reasons. But also, it's a fairly it's in the part that's a bit like on the up and come up, right? So that those parts. So
Do you remember
So
what it was listed at?
it was listed at 171,000
Nice.
for a
Okay.
triplex, which was generating, if I'm not mistaken, 1,745 in rent per month.
Okay. And did you offer them full price?
Yeah, there was no. I couldn't go lower than that. I think I paid $4,000 less than the guy, the previous owner who had bought it 3 years earlier. So I
Wow.
knew that I was getting a quote unquote good price, but it came with its uh, its fair share of headaches in the sense that you had to do the work, right?
Mhm.
So over and above that, I know that we've had guests on the show that mentioned the Pré Reno with a certain financial institution that we have here in Quebec.
With
So
Desjardins.
yes, and
No,
so
no
I got
advertisement intended.
no, none intended, but it's been brought up, and I think for us it really helped us out because I had a similar experience with another financial institution, a regular bank, and it wasn't as easy, if I could put it that way.
Yeah.
So we bought the property for 171. We had some quotes from different contractors for 170. So I added,
170 of work?
yeah,
Oh,
for the
wow.
conversion.
Okay.
So that this was roofing, the conversion, plumbing, electricity. We wanted to do some work on the balconies outside because they were in really bad shape. So knowing how that works, the Perino, you're better off asking for a bit more. But then if you don't use it all, then they just remove it from the mortgage.
Mhm.
So that's what we did.
Wow. And so, and you're still planning on doing almost as much reno as the purchase price of the property?
Yeah, right now,
Okay.
well, because I bought the property a year ago, and that was before we had all those hikes in
Okay.
prices. So it ended up turning out okay for us because we were able to absorb that hike in prices.
Mhm.
And as of right now, basically we are going to be renting out the 4 units for a monthly income of 2950. So that's a close to 60% increase of revenue in a year in this little unit.
Yeah.
So I think it's been I won't say a home run, but it's been a good. I've been like I say in baseball, it's a third base hit or a second base hit. But the most important thing is out of this whole process is the experience. You
Exactly. The
know,
learning.
yeah, the learning
Mhm.
is worth more than any monetary aspect of it because look at me today. I'm talking about it on a podcast, and I've never would have thought that this would have happened in my life 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the most I got out of this whole thing.
And your plan with this property, are you thinking of maybe flipping it and reselling it in like a year or two? Do you want to do a long-term hold, or how do you see the future?
Our strategy right now with my partners is to buy and hold, and we're going to be using the BRRRR strategy,
Yeah.
something that's been coined by Bigger Pockets. So as soon as we're done with all the renos, we got the new leases and tenants are in. We're going to refinance it, sorry, and take out our money and start over again.
And look for another one.
There you go.
Yeah. And so in finding another one, like usually how do you prospect? I doubt it's just the MLS.
No, I have a few wholesalers that
Mhm.
I get emails from, so I'm always looking at that. But at this point of my career in this field, I'd say it's really MLS. I don't prospect, I don't door knock. I'm not at that level yet. I'm not that. I don't know. I guess I have to work on that side of my personality to deal with that type of rejection because I've never been a salesman before. I used to work in the railroad industry, so like we don't have to deal with that at that level. But I think that coming from hearing on your podcast and the different podcasts that I listen to, it's really about your networking. So I need to start branching out, talking to investors, local investors, which I am now aware that they exist here, and reinforce my network
Yeah.
to get leads.
And just an idea like that, but like people in town must have seen what you're doing with the 4 unit, and so if you like the town, it might also be great to kind of like talk to the neighbors, talk to other people in town, and you'd be surprised how quickly like someone's be like, well, actually, I have a property I'd like to sell, the triplex at the corner over there,
That's it.
maybe you'd be interested. And I found like I've always been surprised by, I wouldn't even say the results, but just the outcome of conversations like that that are that are genuine, that are real, and it's like, oh, go talk to this person. She wants to sell, but she doesn't know how. And you're like, boom,
There you go.
amazing. I might have found a deal right there. So like, just talk to everyone. And, well, for here I say the depth, but like people that talk to people who talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good one. And like you said, whenever you start doing this type of work on a property and you're really changing the face of the neighborhood that you're investing in, it gets people talking. You're absolutely right. You always have people, they're on their walk or they're walking their dog and they end up slowing down in front of your property and they look at it and they ask questions. And that's, like you said, that's how it starts.
Mhm.
So for sure, especially in those smaller towns, people
Yeah.
talk. And if you're doing what you said you were doing and you do it well, I'm fairly certain that it'll pay back tenfold for sure.
And it's funny, when you say, "Look, oh, I'm not at that level for the door knocking and stuff." I think you completely are. I think you're just, it might be a limiting belief, but that's another conversation. But like, we've had time with Simon when we're like driving around, and it happened a few times in Lachine, and we see like a shoebox or we see like a rundown duplex, and it's literally like, "Stop the car! Stop! 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 I'm gonna go door knock right now!" And I'm like, "Wow, okay." And it's like jumps out of the car, knocks. Sometimes it's like, they slam, and sometimes like, give me your phone number. Maybe it's like, hey, is it okay if I call you back in a week? And follow up like that. And I find it's always like, I wouldn't say fun experiences, but like, even when someone slams the door, you're like, oh well, too bad. Took the chance. It didn't work.
Well, you know what? I'm self-aware enough that it's a growth opportunity for someone.
Yeah.
Those things, right? I would say that being aware enough of my own where I'm at, in the career or my own shortcomings. We always, or I think that whenever you start off in something, you have that imposter syndrome and you need to
Yeah.
get over with. And that's basically my challenge right now is just getting past that. But you're absolutely right. At one point, it'll become second nature, and it'll be where I make my home runs. Right.
And just I love how you've been sharing your experience, because I find in the mindset you're actually very, very strong, and you completely believe in yourself. You've had some good experiences, and so like how did that come about? Because at the beginning, and in a way, I'm still there with like, just a couple of properties, and I'm like, oh, can I do this, or is this too big, or like, who am I to talk about this? And so like, what do you say to yourself to keep motivating and plowing ahead?
That's a very good question. And it's something that I've pondered about recently because I had the same conversation with my wife. And I actually I think I know where it comes from now. I played cards for a living while I was in university from 2006 to 2011. I was playing poker online back
Wow.
when it was the golden age. And the one thing that taught me is that failure is part of life, but it's all about what you learn from it, right? So you can't always win, but if you're able to make a loss not a loss but a learning experience, your mind changes. And I think that's what's helping me right now is that real estate is a forgiving asset, especially in today's market.
Yeah.
But if you follow the fundamentals, you listen to people that have done it before, you get some confidence in doing your moves. And when you start seeing those results, as I have, well, you build up. It's like building blocks, right? So I would say that's where it came from, like the years of getting pounded and my ego getting completely shattered because I thought I was amazing, but then luck is not working on my side. It kind of helped. So I guess
Yeah.
that's where it came from.
And having that balance. Well, first of all, like you said, you play, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but like the important thing is just to
Yeah.
keep playing. And then number two, like, but shattering the confidence and stuff, it's tough. Like, real estate is not an easy thing. And sometimes, like, I've had conversations with my wife, and I'm like kind of down and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, we only did 2 deals this year," and she's like, "Listen to yourself, you only did 2 deals this year, woo hoo hoo, like, this is really good, stop beating yourself." And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, you're
No,
right.
you're right. And we have a tendency to be harder on ourselves than people outside, right? And I think that's also a trait of people
Mhm.
that are built to do this because it's a way that you push yourself.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you understand your why and why you started this whole thing, in my case, it's just to build generational wealth.
Mhm.
I'm not someone who needs that much in life. I like nice things, but it's not something that I need.
Yeah.
But I have two daughters. They're young, and one of the most important things for me is not to give them material wealth, but to give them the knowledge, to give
Mhm.
them the tools so that they can navigate this life better than I did, and hopefully they can get to a better position than I have.
Yeah.
So yeah, understanding your why, not letting yourself be brought down by exterior factors, and enjoying it as you go, because it's not easy, like you said, and if it was, everybody would be doing it. So that's why, like, you sometimes when you're on the floor, or you're feeling down about whatever, just take a break, reset yourself, do whatever makes you happy, and then go back at it. And the only way that you lose at real estate is if you stop. When you think about it, if you just quit, that's the only way you're going to lose. If you
Yeah.
keep on going, eventually
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
And as you said, it's a very forgiving asset class in terms of like, you might think today, oh, I overpaid 20K and this and that, but like 5 years from now, who cares? You won't even remember.
Yep, exactly. The long it's a we got to see it as a long-term play, right?
Yeah.
And yes, there are numbers, but also along the way, you're going to become a different person. You're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to learn more about the world. You're going to educate yourself, and that's always the best thing there is. Educate yourself.
And give
So
back.
that's it. And you got to give back to the people around you. You got to make sure. This is the reason why I did it with my brothers, because initially they had no interest in it. Is I don't want to be the only one that eats well. I don't want to be the only one who's having those family gatherings, and
Yeah.
everything's great in my life, but I see my
Yeah.
brothers are struggling, or my parents,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about giving back and
Yeah.
focusing on what you're doing it. Yeah.
Mhm. You spoke about your wife a little earlier, mentioning that she's your partner on the original triplex. Like, what does she like doing this? Like, what's her attitude? How does it work between the two of you? Because I
No,
know it can be tough.
that's probably my biggest win out of this whole thing up to this point, because my wife grew up in a family where both her parents were educated. They worked for big companies. They got the pension plan. So investing was something that was done by someone at the bank for them,
Yeah.
and never in themselves. They had their own house. Not really investors. So I come from a background. Both my parents are immigrants. My dad's from Chile. My mom's from El Salvador. So they have a different mindset when it comes to investment and real estate, and trying to look for the future. So with my wife, it took years. It's not an easy thing, because you don't want to force it. You
Mhm.
want it to be a partnership and not somebody that you just hire out. So in my case, it was making sure that she would read some of the books that I read, listening to podcasts. I would sneak in a podcast when we're driving, just so that she would enjoy it or start to
Yeah.
understand it. Then at the end of the day, spreadsheets showing numbers,
Yeah.
showing the actual monetary impact of doing these investments and where it's going
Mhm.
to lead us. And yeah, that's how I've been able to bring her on board. And now she's helping me out. She's basically the flip side to my coin, because all her strengths are my weaknesses, and that's how we're able to work as a unit. Same
Yeah.
thing with my other partners.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
a big
you
win.
so you guys make a fantastic team.
Oh yeah, I pat myself on the back a lot, but I don't tell her. But
Oh, good for you. Pat her back as well once in a while.
I will. Trust me, it's
So
needed.
so so what do you see the future holding for you? Like, 3 years from now, when you come back on the podcast, what do you hope to be sharing with us? Or what's the
Nothing about myself.
objective?
No, I know, but nothing about myself. If I can have the opportunity again to talk to an audience, to yourself, I would like to share about what I've helped people to do with. I'm a firm believer of giving back. I like to talk to people, to learn more about them, to see how I can help them.
Mhm.
So in 3 years, ideally, yes, I've done a few deals. Yes, I've done partnerships, but also share how I was able to help out someone change their lives, or bring that bit more of happiness, or more knowledge, or anything like that. So seeing how I've helped more people, I think that would be what I would want to share in 3 years. On a personal side, though, I'm really working towards lean fire, so making sure that my passive income is able to pay for my recurring expenses, because at that
Yeah.
point, whether I end up selling ice cream in Vietnam, like one of your previous interviewees said, or whether it's, traveling the world, or, just being a brigadier right beside my daughter's school, so I can see her every day, something that I never had the opportunity with my parents, because they were working so much. That's basically what it is. It's I want to be able to say that I've helped people more than I was able to help myself.
Yeah. And I first of all, I love your take and your perspective on it. And because I've had sometimes the question of like, oh, like last couple of years and what you do and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I did some deals and stuff, but what I've noticed that I kind of share first is like, oh, but I started this little fun podcast and I get to talk to great people, and with the meetup, like we get together and we talk and stuff. And I've always kind of brought the human part first. And I guess it corresponds more to my personality and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, and we did a bunch of transactions and it went well and we refinanced and like, blah, but people always kind of expect like that part first, and almost to brag about like, we refi and took like 300K out. Like, ooh, good job. Like, okay, that's just money. But what really matters and triggers is the people side of it. And God knows real estate is a fantastic people business.
No, that's it. Exactly. It's all about the people. It's all about the people that you meet along the way. Whether it's a tradesman, somebody who's selling the property, somebody who's looking to buy, partners, you know what it is? It's just you meet people, and we're social animals, right? So it's really about extending your tribe and bringing more people in.
Now, is there something that I or the audience, is there something that we can do or help you with?
Well, yes. Obviously, I'm at the stage where I'm looking to surround myself with smarter people with more experience than I am. I'm actually I'm going to be incorporating myself and then transferring all the properties that we have in our personal name into that company. So anyone who knows of someone who can guide me, I would be very, very happy for that and grateful. But also on the flip side, I know I don't have the big portfolio, but if anybody wants to reach out, have a coffee, if I can share any of my experiences, because we learn from our mistakes, and hopefully you don't have to put your hand on the burner on the stove to learn that it's hot, so you can learn from somebody else, then I'll be more than happy to do that. So I'll share my contact info in the end of our podcast, but anybody who wants to reach out and just talk, I'm here for it. So this is what it's all about.
Absolutely. It's the sharing part. Perfect. Well, then where can people find out more about you?
I actually reactivated my Instagram right before this podcast. So the handle is Rodrigo Parada, REI.
Okay.
I currently don't have any pictures on it, so it's not a bot. It's me. You can reach me through there.
Put one or two pictures so people know it's you.
I will right after I'm done.
And I'll add you too.
No, I think Instagram would be great, and then we can shoot me a DM there, and then we'll see how it goes.
Sounds like a plan, man. Thank you very much for participating and sharing your experience. Like, I really, really like your energy, and I actually look forward to meeting you in person at some point.
Axel, thank you. It's been a great pleasure, but a bigger honor to be on this podcast. And to everyone listening, listen. We can all do it. We can all learn from it. The pie is big enough so everyone can eat. So let's just start eating. Yeah,
well said. On this wonderful note, so thank you, Rodrigo. If any of you listening like this podcast somehow, for some reason, I don't know, just please subscribe, leave us a rating, send some comments, send me some feedback, give some ideas. I really appreciate it, and I take them seriously. Try to actually bring topics that you want to hear about, or guests, or anything like that. So hit me up, and then have a wonderful day. Go make some purchase offers, go buy properties, and go educate yourself. It'll be the best investment you make to start in real estate. So on this note, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next week. Ciao, ciao.